Why do you think that 97% of people, of families, households, say that they are financially stressed, financially strapped, don't feel like they're getting ahead, they're working too hard, they're burnt out, they have financial stress and strife? 97%. Well, today I'm going to talk about the 3 reasons why most families are stressed out when it comes to their finances. I'm going to sum all that up in what I call the money spectrum. And by understanding the money spectrum, it can help you get out of this month-to-month, paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. It can get you out of that feeling of just constantly feeling stressed and having anxiety about money to get to a different place where you feel financially successful. You're starting to feel financial peace of mind, and you start to move towards the 3% who report that they're doing great when it comes to money. Wouldn't that be nice to be able to say, man, I've got this money thing tackled and I feel great? All right, let's jump in. So the first reason why most households, the large majority of households, it might be you, that report financial stress is because they're what I call the break even. And the break even is what I think is the most stressful place to be. And that's this triangle here called the break even. And the break even has 2 faces. The first part of break even is that you're making $100,000 a year and your bills are $100,000 a year. Or you're making $7,500 a month and your bills are $7,500 a month. Whatever the number on a monthly amount, it means that you're just getting by. And that's what causes the stress. It's that stress of you have to go hustle next month to pay last month's bills, and you have to do it again. Now, the normal tendency is, the belief is, if I just make more money, then all my problems will go away. But no, what happens is that you make more money, you go from $7,500 a month to $10,000 a month, and what happens to your bills? They go from $7,500 a month to $10,000 a month. And that's called Parkinson's Law of Money. And Parkinson's Law of Money says expenses will always rise to match income. Expenses will always rise to match income. So that becomes what's called that hamster wheel, where you just feel like you're going in circles and never getting financially ahead. So the first thing you want to do is get out of the break even on an income and an expense. So that's part 1 of the break even. Part 2 of the break even that's on the money spectrum is when it comes to cash, when it comes to having extra money sitting around, when it comes to what's called net worth. And net worth has nothing to do with your income and expenses. Your net worth has to do with your assets and your liabilities. And what causes a lot of stress is when you have a lot of debt and you don't have the assets to balance it out on the other side. So that's another part of break even, that maybe you have, let's say that you have $100,000 in, let's say, equity in your home. Maybe you have some 401ks, some IRAs, maybe some cash sitting around. So you have $100,000 of equity that would show up on your balance sheet, but you also have $100,000 of debt. So you're at the break even. That means that you have 0 net worth. And when you have 0 net worth, you're not getting ahead because you don't have extra resources there that you can tap into if you need to. So that's where it lies on the money spectrum. So where are you on the money spectrum? What happens naturally is that when we're in college, we're not making any money. We're going into debt. So we get all those student loans and we're not making an income. And then maybe we get out of college and we get to that break-even part in that we're making money, but by the time we have our rent, by the time we have our car payment and we're paying our student loan payments, it's eating up everything that we make. So then we keep trying to make more money. We want to make $10,000 a month, maybe $50,000 a month, maybe $100,000, maybe $1 million a month, as though that's going to solve our problems. Because like I said, if we're just focused on income, when our income goes up to $10,000 a month, so do our expenses, $50,000 a month, so do our expenses. And we get over here and we live this really rich lifestyle, meaning we're spending a ton of money on this great life because we're making so much. And we're just focused on the money spectrum in this terms of income matching expenses. So where we start to take the shift is when we look at the money spectrum and look at it from a balance sheet point of view. And we want to go from most people, when we're looking at this 97%, what this means is that their liabilities, meaning what they owe in debt, all that personal debt, which would include your mortgage, your credit cards, your car, which you have on your balances on your car loans, your student loans, your credit card balances. When you add all of that up, that means that you have more in liabilities than you do over here on assets. So what we want to do is we want to start looking at this and calculating how much is my net worth? Where am I on the money spectrum? Because if you want to get out of that financial stress, you want to focus less on making more money. Yes, we always want to make more money, but we want to focus more on increasing our net worth, growing our net worth. So net worth is something reflected on a balance sheet. And if you want to be wealthy, you want to be rich, like truly rich in a wealth standpoint, and you want to get out of the financial stress, you want to get what's called in the black, where it means that if you have $100,000 of liabilities, but you have $250,000 of assets, you're on the right side of the money spectrum. You're on the right side of the break even. So over time, when we're in debt in college and getting in debt, what we want to do is we want to keep moving intentionally to the first step. If you are in debt and you don't have any assets that are more than your liabilities, the first step is to get to break even. But then the next thing you want to do is start setting these benchmarks and time frames for growing your net worth over time. Is that in 6 months, I want to have $10,000 of rainy day fund where I have an extra $10,000, maybe paid off your debt here. And then it's like my next step is I want to have $50,000 and have more cash sitting around. So usually the first step is to get to this place where this is called savings, where we have cash sitting around. Cash is peace of mind. It's liquidity. It means if we lost our job and we had $50,000 sitting here, we'd have some wiggle room to pay the bills until we get the next job. Or if we want to quit our job and start a business, for example. So we start building savings and just get in the habit of storing cash. And we're getting out of this break even. So that's this first step. And the second reason why 97% feel financially strapped one way or another, and they're having fights at home, they're not sleeping at night, they're getting a second job, they're anything that comes with feeling overwhelmed due to the finances. The second thing that's important to do is a simple calculation, and I call it, how wealthy are you? And I think this is it's a fun exercise. I think it's a revealing exercise. And how wealthy are you? This is how you think about it. So the exercise is I wave a magic wand, and I'm just going to wave this magic wand, and I'm going to say, okay, starting today, you can never earn another penny again. So you can't ever earn again. No one in your household can earn again. So today is your last paycheck. Now just think about that for a moment. Today is your last paycheck. How would that work? How would you feel? How much anxiety would that cost you? So, but it's really important to do this, like to really think, if today were my last paycheck, what would I do? So that's part one of the exercise. Part two of the exercise then is determine how much does it cost to pay your bills every month. And to make the math easy, let's say it's $10,000 a month. So your bills are $10,000 a month and you cannot earn any more money. So now the third thing is to calculate how much money do you have in assets, sellable assets, that you could turn the assets into cash or cash. So let's say you have $10,000 sitting around in your checking account. And let's just say that your personal residence doesn't count in this, but so let's say you have $10,000 of cash sitting in your account. Let's say you have, I don't know, let's say you have an old car that you could sell because you can cash in that paid off car that's maybe a collectible or something. Perhaps you have some stamps that you could sell. Like, look around your house and look at anything that could bring in some value. What could you sell it for? Maybe look in the basement, all that stuff that's been collecting, could you sell it? Facebook Marketplace is a great place to get rid of stuff and bring in some cash. So look at everything you could sell and total it up. Total cash value of everything you have. Now here's the caveat. You don't want to go down in lifestyle. So you don't want to sell your house because you have to have a place to live, and you don't want to go down in lifestyle necessarily. So the money in your house doesn't count because that's there. And you don't want to get rid of your cars because you need to drive from point A to point B. So you don't want to decrease your lifestyle. You need to know the cost of this lifestyle that you don't want to change. And you want to know what the cash value is of everything that you could sell to be able to cover the cost of your living expenses since you can't work anymore. So then let's just say that we have $50,000 worth of cash, or cash that we could access because we could sell. And if our expenses are $10,000 a month, then how wealthy are you is you're 5 months wealthy. That means that you could live for 5 months, not change your lifestyle, and carry on and keep your current living just the way it is. But is 5 months enough? Now, statistics show that families, the large percentage of families in the US, have less than 2 months of money available. So that means they're 2 months wealthy. So how stressful is it in the back of your mind that you just know if anything were to go wrong, you do have to downsize, you do have to sell things, you do have to go in more debt. Something terrible is going to happen financially if something bad were to happen, like losing a job or having a health crisis or any other number of things that might cause you to not be able to bring in that income. So that's why people are stressed, because they're at break even or they're less than that 2 months. So how we become less stressed and gain more peace of mind over time is we want to extend how wealthy we are. And we want to go from 2 months to maybe 5 months to 12 months to 2 years to 4 years. But think about it. If you have 2 months of reserves in some form or fashion available to you, if something were to happen, how stressful is that compared to if you have 2 years worth of wealth available to you and something happens, you're going to be far less stressed. You know, you have time to get through the health crisis. You have time to find the next job. You have time to start that business you've always wanted to start. So that's why we want to get to this right side of the money spectrum. And the first goal of that is to really get like 6 months of cushion there, that if something bad were to happen, you've got 6 months of runway. And that's the first goal if you're at 0 months or 2 months, that you want to get to the 6 months. When you get to 12 months, even better, because life happens. I had a huge health crisis about a decade ago, and it took me out for 2 years. And once my body gave out, so did my business, so did my income. So it's only because I had cash value and assets, I was able to sell those assets and live off some of the passive income from those assets, that I was able to get through my health crisis, and I was able to get on my feet. Once I got past that, I was able to get back on my feet and start over again pretty quickly. But I can't even imagine if I'd had the financial stress on top of the daily fear and stress and everything that went on while I was trying to figure out what was wrong and get healthy. So you just never know when that day might come where you can't work anymore, maybe permanently forever, but like in my case, where you're out of the game for a couple years. So that's what we want to do. And the goal here is when we say something like, I want to be a millionaire, there's a reason why. Like we say, like, yes, I want to be a millionaire, because who doesn't, right? It sounds like a big number, but it's something more than just wanting to be a millionaire. You want to be a millionaire because becoming a millionaire creates peace of mind. It means that you have money available. It's sitting out there. It's money stored in some form. We call it assets, but it's stored money. And maybe it's stored in cryptocurrency. Maybe it's stored in real estate. Maybe it's stored in stocks. Maybe it's stored in an index fund. Where the money's invested, / meaning stored, it really doesn't matter. What matters is that it's there and it's available if you need it. So that's what saved me when I got sick, is I had stored money out there that I was able to sell to pay for my life, to pay for my health care, to pay for all the things, so that at least lack of finances didn't add to the stress of what already was going on. So the reason we want to become a millionaire is that at this certain stage, like kind of $100,000 plus, maybe less, but then we move into savings. We have savings, and this is called liquidity. And the reason why you need money liquid is because, let's say in my health crisis, as the example, I had cash sitting there that wasn't able to pay for the immediate stuff, but things that are invested, they're not liquid. So it took time to sell some real estate. It took time to sell the things that eventually put the cash back into my bank, but it wasn't available immediately. So you need the liquidity for those immediate emergency expenses or those immediate life events. But beyond that, we go to investments. And investments means we don't have the cash available, but we move the other money above and beyond this into non-liquid investments, non-liquid assets. And meaning that they might take a little bit more time to sell. And there's those things, there are things that are in between, that your stocks you can sell pretty quickly, your crypto you could sell pretty quickly, but sometimes you don't want to sell them on the down because, right, you'd take a loss. So that's why we want the cash available. So if we do have to tap into some of our semi-liquid investments, we don't have to do it at the worst time, because Murphy's Law says that when you need the money, that's when the market is down. So that's where we go into the investments. Now, why $1 million? Why are we all about $1 million? Well, there's a practical, pragmatic reason. And using just basic money investment fundamentals, there's something that's called the 4 or 5% rule. And the 4 or 5%, I like using 5%, it says you can withdraw 5% of the interest, hopefully interest, on your investment to be able to use that 5% of the stored value of that investment and take that out in cash, pay yourself in cash on an annual basis to not run out of money. So that you don't, if you have $1 million sitting here, for example, you can pull out 5% and the $1 million stays whole, and you live off the 5% interest, which would be $50,000. So that $50,000, that's why you want to become a millionaire. That's why becoming a millionaire and setting this goal and target for your family is beyond, you get to the break even, and before, you get kind of that 6, maybe 12 months, that's the first goal. The second goal. The third goal is to become a millionaire. And it's easy to determine using ChatGPT to put in like, how long will it take? And actually I'd say, if I want to be a millionaire in 10 years, how much do I need to invest on a monthly basis at a 10% interest rate? And ChatGPT will tell you. But let's just say it's $2,700 per month. That means for 10 years, you'd need to pay $2,700 to be able to get to $1 million. So that's what you're going to be doing. Every month over this year, you're going to put in that $2,700, and it will continue to grow and compound to this million. But it's not about the $1 million. Sure, the $1 million feels great. It looks good on the balance sheet. But it's more about the fact that $1 million, if you wanted to, you could pay yourself $50,000 a year to be able to pay for your expenses. Now, $50,000 is a really important number. That's why $1 million is a very important number. And that's why I like saying set $1 million as your first goal. Because let me ask you this. Imagine if your mortgage was paid for, your car payments were paid for, your groceries were paid for, your utilities were paid for, your basic clothing was paid for, your insurance, your health insurance was paid for, just these survival expenses. If I gave you the money every year that covered those survival expenses, like I was your great aunt and I gave you a trust fund that paid for those survival expenses, how much easier would life be? Wouldn't it be so much easier just knowing that those survival expenses are covered than, anything you make pays for anything above and beyond that? Absolutely. And that's the feeling we want to get, is just knowing that the basics are covered. So that's why $1 million, because if you pulled out the minimum of 5%. You can always pull out more if you wanted to, but this minimum, it's going to cover those basic survival expenses. And if you don't have any debt, $50,000 goes a long way. So that's what you want to do. If you don't have great aunt, Krisstina, that's going to leave you $1 million, that's going to give you this $50,000 a year that you could use, then you want to create your own trust fund. You're building your $1 million trust fund for your future self. So you don't have to wait for anybody to die. You get to do this yourself and be in complete control of it. So that's what we want to do on this money spectrum, is calculate how wealthy you are or how not wealthy you are. You might be over here, but just make it this goal to keep going up on the spectrum. And eventually over here, grade yourself. -10 means that your liabilities are greater than your assets. 10 plus 10 on the right side here is when you get to the 10, this is financial freedom. Less than 3% of the entire population will ever get anywhere close to financial freedom. Now, don't let that scare you. I think it's available to everyone, which is why I teach this, because I want you too to be financially free, but only 3% get there. I think we can determine why, because most of us are some here over here, the break even or in the negative, and we've just determined to get out of that. We need to get to the right side of the spectrum. But financial freedom, about 3% ever get there. And financial freedom, what that means is that the assets, if we have, let's say, instead of $1 million, let's say we have $3 million, and if that 5% rule still applies, that's $150,000. So if you can live your life on $150,000 and you have $3 million sitting there and you're pulling out 5%, you're financially free. So we may or may not ever get to full financial freedom at our current lifestyle, but it's available. But before, so many people in my space talk about financial freedom, financial independence, and that's great. That's the ultimate goal. But it's so far away and seems so unattainable and is so nebulous for many people when they're struggling. I like to say, let's set these stair-step goals before we even start talking about financial freedom. Let's get to the first 10, the first 50, the first 100. Let's get to break even, to the place where our trust fund, that trust fund that covers our basic expenses, are covered. And that's why you want to become a millionaire. And the third thing when it comes to the money spectrum, wealth creation, is to really understand that the only way to do this is you have to spend less than you make. You have to determine how much is this amount that I need to start saving, meaning I keep my expenses lower than my income. How much do I need to start saving and putting aside, get it out of my main bank account to start building up some cash? And then how much do I need to start investing so that I can hit my millionaire target sometime in the future? So very easy conceptually to do this, and then practically it's just a matter of what are you going to do to start changing your trajectory on the spectrum. And one final thing I'll say here is the reason why we're stuck in this break even on a month-to-month basis is because we have our income, like I mentioned, and then we have our expenses. So what we do is we have income that is what I call determining our expenses. So like I said, if we have $10,000 of income, our income then tells us, okay, yes, we get to spend $10,000 a month on our lifestyle. Then you go up to $20,000 of income. There's Parkinson's law that happens. It's like, yay us, we get to increase our lifestyle. We get to buy bigger houses and better cars, and our expenses get to be $20,000. And so on and so forth, and that's the trap. That's that break-even trap. How we switch it is we reverse it. We let our expenses determine our income. So let's think about that for a moment. What do I mean when I say we want our expenses determine our income, not our income determine our expenses? When we look at this, is looking at saying, hey, if my expenses are $10,000 a month, then that means that my income needs to be 20% greater than that. So what we want to look at is we want to keep our expenses to determine, okay, that means my income needs to be 20% higher, and that's, let's say, $12,000 a month, And that's what you want to look at. It's like, okay, can I earn $12,000 a month? Or as a household, can we earn $12,000 a month? Because we need to make sure we add on this amount of money, whatever this is, that is the amount that we're going to save and use that savings to invest later on to be able to make sure that we can start going to the right. We want the trajectory to be that way. But that's what we want our expenses, like, hey, here's our expenses. Like, well, we don't have a way to generate $12,000 a month. Then it's like, okay, then we need to determine our expenses are $8,000 a month. And if we want to add 20%, and then it's $10,000 of income, it's like, okay, we can make $10,000 of income. But it's just important that we flip-flop what everybody else is doing. And I'll close there saying that you can't do what everybody else is doing unless otherwise you're going to get the same results that everybody else is getting. And like I said, 97% of the population reports that they feel financially strapped, financially stressed, they're not getting ahead, they don't have enough retirement, they don't have enough saved, family conflict, kids, you name it. Like, it just goes on and on and on as these different layers that cause families to be stressed out about money. So, takeaway from here is change where you are on the money spectrum. Finally, I have a course. It's called my Curbs course, which is basically curb your spending so you can invest to a millionaire. And I'll put a link to some information about that if you're interested, because this is what I teach in my courses, is how to pragmatically start getting from the left side to get all the way to the right side. And I'm sure you've subscribed by now, so thank you for subscribing. But if you found anything about this helpful, please like the video and comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know how wealthy you are. Let me know anything that stuck out, or even if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Thank you, and I'll see you next time.